Hey, Change Point, Pastor Tony Murrow here, and my guest today on the Commons is going to be Margret Lewis. Margret, along with her husband John, have recently departed for the village of Marshall, where they're going to be partnering with Change Point Kotzebue to bring life in Christ to that community. John and Margret served as missionaries in Marshall from 2012 through 2014. And as I was talking with Margret, she just has an incredible story, and her family story ties into everything we've been talking about today with King Josiah. So I sat down with her to talk about the message, to talk about Marshall, and all that the Lord is going to be doing there. Enjoy. I'm thinking about, there's an author who I love. He's this pastor in Queens, New York. His name's Pete Scazzaro. He's got this quote. He says that Jesus may live in your heart, but Grandpa lives in your bones. And it just speaks to the way in which I think I see in the biblical text even God liberating families across generations. You know, when he brought the people up out of Egypt, they didn't just stop being Egyptian. They'd lived there for 400 years. That's all they know to be is Egyptian. And so, I mean, that's where the giving of the law was, and it was this very specific, hey, you know, we're going to go this way, we're going to do this, we're not going to do that, and each of those changes gets made little by little. And the people have a very stumbling course coming out of that, right? That wasn't an easy transition for them to make at all. But God was faithful in all that. I just hear a very similar story. I know in my own family story, and I hear it in yours as well, of just across generations, God beginning to move and do things that sometimes take a little bit of time.
They do. They do take time, and I think we have to just continue to remember that God may choose to do something all at once, and we know he can. He can make night into day if he wanted to, but not always. And because I have seen the Lord work, and I know that he's faithful, I know that he's going to continue to work in our families. When I first came to the Lord, there wasn't really any of my siblings walking with the Lord. And John and I are faithful to pray for his side and our side, all of our family. And since then, I have seen 4 of my sisters now that are walking with the Lord, that know the Lord. Okay, there's still, there's still work to be done, as there is in all of us, but I think, it can start with somebody. You think that you don't have that kind of influence, and we don't. It's the Lord working, but you can turn all of that garbage into something that the Lord wants to use.
I believe that with all my heart.
Yeah.
I believe that with all my heart. So you're getting ready to start a brand new adventure here.
Yep.
That's also a little bit of a return. You're going out to Marshall. Tell us a little bit about this. Tell us about your history in Marshall and this decision to go back.
Okay. We were asked to go to Marshall and come alongside of a pastor and his wife that Samaritan's Purse were sending out there. The church was taken back from the pastor that it was originally built for. And so this pastor was going to come in and just see how things went, see if he could turn things around, or if, what was going to happen. So we were asked to go out there for a year. And to get there, we needed at least $5,000 because we didn't, to get from here to there. And somebody donated $5,000. And so it was like, okay, so when you say, okay, I need this or this kind of confirmation, and it happens, and it was an anonymous donor. We have since found out who it was, and it turned out to be my nephew-in-law. It was a nephew of John's, 18-year-old kid that had some money. I mean, just unbelievable. And he still wouldn't want us to recognize him to this day. I mean, so you talk about the Lord working in this situation. So we got the money. It was donated to Mission Aviation Training Academy. We weren't yet really working with them, but we were kind of connected with them. And while we were there in Marshall the first time from 2012, packed up the van, drove to Soldotna. They flew us out. Mission Aviation sent us donations. They would put them right into our bank account, and so that's how we lived out there. Samaritan's Purse would bring us groceries every month. So we lived out there. We worked alongside the pastor, and I was still, this was a new experience for us. And it was really a new experience for this other pastor as well, because apparently he hadn't pastored in years. And so I tend to be a little bit protective. And when he was disrespectful to my husband, then I would be, like, hey, wait a minute, he's even older than you. This isn't how it works. And so, I kind of forgot that when the Lord hadn't just sent us, he sent them as well. But so we kind of clashed a little bit. And if I could take it back, I would, just because now I know differently, but I was still, Lord, work in progress.
I also have plenty of embarrassing stories that I would take back if I could, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, because, you think, you're just absolutely right in what you're doing, but you know what? How does the Lord tell us to do it? Do it in love.
Yeah.
Soft answer turns away wrath.
It does.
Those kinds of things.
It does.
And so, anyway, we were asked to leave in 2014, and actually, it really was good, because my daughter was having a baby, not married. And as it turned out, she had 2 babies in 2 years. So it was really good that we were there. But that's the one that went through rehab. So consequently, John and I pretty much raised those 2 kids, which we never minded. But we knew we were there. And during that time, my son, dealing drugs, got caught and went to prison for a year. So we were basically, helping his girlfriend and their kids, 3 kids, just make sure they had enough money, food, run errands, do all that kind of thing, plus try to keep in contact with him. So that looked like a real good setup. I mean, he went to prison, and we thought he'd find the Lord again, and he did for a while, and then everything kind of took a turn. So his name is Peter, and he's right now homeless with his kids and his wife. I know his wife, or not his girlfriend. They're doing drugs. She is, I know for sure. And and their daughter, Alexa, right now she lived with us her last year of high school, and she's on a mission trip now. I did ask for prayer for her this morning, but so she's accepted the Lord. She accepted the Lord with John and I when she was 8 years old. And so, so we got to Marshall, we came home, we were there, we went back to Mission Aviation Training Academy, and I did the bookkeeping there. John was facility maintenance director, and we were really getting comfortable. But that was it. I mean, we were getting comfortable. And so even though everything was going on around us with our family, we still had our connection to Marshall. Every month, John would send devotions and a letter. Very faithful to do that to quite a few people there. And every year we would go back to Marshall, like I said earlier, for like 3 weeks to a month, and just kept really close contact with the people. They'd call us for prayer requests, and laugh with them, cry with them, and just kept in contact that way. So when Change Point called and just talked to us, I mean, they didn't know who we were. As Scott mentioned, Jonathan Pence from Keiko, who we did know, whom he knows, had mentioned us, and we were all kind of brainstorming, do we know anybody else in Marshall? I remember them asking that question, and there were quite a few of them talking, and us, and we're like, not really, still not really thinking, are we it? Are we going to go back? And just through a series of events, once they did ask us to go back, we knew that was what we needed to do, because the Lord had asked us to do that. And my husband always said, if the Lord ever asked us to go back, we would. He would say that to people. So we'd have people from the village calling and saying, you can rent this house, come on back. And it's like, but we knew that wasn't from the Lord this time. So Change Point, I find this quite interesting. I'm sure, they were like glad to have somebody go to Marshall, but yet here was an answer to our prayer. So that's how the Lord puts things together.
Oh, well, you were also an answer to our prayers. We had made the determination already that if we couldn't find somebody who was called to go do this, that we weren't going to do it. We were going to tell Samaritans first no.
Yeah. See, and the Lord working that whole
right.
time. It's just amazing.
And who are you going to find a couple of qualified ministers who want to go out to Marshall? I remember hearing this plan for the first time, and I'm like, well, sure, if the Lord brings one of those out of the ground, I vote yes. But, so you were an answer to our prayers as well. So you mentioned this morning that you went back to school in your 50s.
I did.
Got your master's. What's your master's in?
I have a master's in human services. Is that what it? No, I can't even think. Human services.
Right. That sounds right.
Yeah.
That's a degree.
Yeah. And that with an emphasis, though, in addiction and recovery. I did go a little bit further in that. Again, thinking that I was going to use it, and I have used it within my own family. I haven't. I think sometimes, I could be making a little bit of money. There's a little bit of money when a degree comes, but
sure.
Honestly, that was the Lord's gifting to me, for me to put all those pieces back together. And there's still areas that I'm struggling in, which you always do. But as I am able to share my story, in fact, it's 2 Corinthians, if I'm not mistaken, that where it tells us we are to help people with the help that we ourselves have received from the Lord. And that's and he doesn't want us to keep quiet about our past. He doesn't want us to keep quiet about maybe those embarrassing moments, because maybe somebody else needs to hear that too, and say, yeah, that's our, that isn't so bad. Okay, because the Lord forgives us, and we grow.
It's also just the truth.
Well, it is the truth.
When I look at the life of Jesus, he always had the utmost compassion for any broken person who wandered by saying, help me, Lord, I know if I could only touch your robe, I'd be healed. He has the utmost compassion for them. The people that he butts heads with are people who wash the outside of the cup, but inside are full of dead man's,
Yeah.
So I think that's deeply biblical. I think it's exactly what Jesus asks us for, is that kind of forthrightness. And in reality, every single one of us is a work in progress. I've met a few very old people who seem to shine with Shekinah glory, but they themselves tell me that in their own prayer life, they're struggling with all kinds of things. So I think you can get pretty far, much further than I am today, but I don't think I'm going to make it all the way this side of heaven, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is okay. And one of our closest friends is a 98-year-old woman who has been like a mother to both John and I. She was the hardest person to leave, in all honesty. Of everybody, we loved the people we were working with. We loved our kids, our grandkids, obviously. But our friend Lois, who is 98, her mother lived to be 104. So that's what we're counting on. Lord, okay, let us just come back. And she'd look at us before we were leaving, and I've just learned to depend on you, and not trying to make you feel bad.
Right.
You could take it that way, but it was just the truth. She was just telling us how she felt. The best thing is, a lady that I worked with, my boss, I call her my boss, her and her husband stepped in when the director of mission aviation was killed, and so this was 2006. They have ran this until we got a different director, but her husband is the chief flight instructor. She's admin. So I always say MATA is theirs. Okay, but but she stepped up, and she is visiting Lois now. She goes over there, and she makes sure that Lois has what she needs. And Lois has sons. She has no daughters. But Stacy's kind of stepped into that role, and it's like, man, the Lord is just so good, the way he just works out the details. So you just know it's okay.
That is cool. I love listening to your stories, Margaret, because the Lord is so active in them. It's wonderful. So what would you like the people of Change Point to know, as somebody who's lived in Marshall? What do you think we should know about the community of Marshall?
Um, they're good people. They're families, grandmas, mothers, children. I I struggle with the fact that I feel like they're living half in and half out because they're seeing with the internet and all these things that they don't have, and yet they have such a rich culture, and that is so important. But yet, I guess to a kid, it doesn't look as important. But from me looking at them, I'm thinking, man, you got your grandma and grandpa right here, and aunt and uncle, and they're teaching you the Yupik ways and to hunt and to fish, and they're doing all that, but yet there's a part of them that see this hip hop and all this stuff on TV that looks like it's so cool and it's so empty, and
Kids
so
don't know what's good. Kids will turn down fresh caribou to eat Cheetos, right?
yeah, exactly,
Like,
exactly.
like,
And
that's
so
kids.
it's like,
They don't know.
so they're just normal people that are living in a community, and a lot of them are raised by their grandparents. So there's a lot of 2-3 generations in home, but they're just good people that are living there. And it's I mean, how many people get to say they have a village behind them? Literally, we feel like we've got a village behind us. I mean, that is just so, and that's not of us. And I don't ever mean to, because you can really think you're something, if you think about it, like, wow, we were asked to go back to Marshall. But it isn't us, it's what the Lord has done in us.
He opened that door.
He did open that door, and they're good people, and we can't wait to just go back and love on them, because they do love. When you're accepted, and they don't accept everybody. They don't have a judicial system, so to speak, there. There's no police or anything. The tribal center kind of sets the rules, but if they don't want you in the village, guess what? I mean, you
You're
go
gonna go?
bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is.
Right.
And so my kids were real worried to begin with, like, aren't you afraid? Absolutely not. No way. No, we're not afraid. Well, we've got the Lord behind us, but plus they like us, so we're okay. But just to feel welcome and to know that we get to go back there, it's a privilege. It really is.
It's just neat to hear how the Lord used that previous experience to create these community relationships that would pave the way for what it is that He's going to be doing next. That's many missionaries going into a new context. The first many years are just building up the credibility to be allowed to speak, right? As not an outsider coming in wildly. So that's just really, really tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, how can we be praying for you and John? You're leaving tomorrow, so by the time this airs, you will be in Marshall.
Yep.
You have been in Marshall for about 10 days. So think forward to 10 days from now, and what will you want the Change Point family to be praying for you about?
I want them to be praying for us, specifically just to represent the Lord and to be true to what we know to be truth. And then I heard Scott praying this morning about raising someone up. I want people to pray too that we can raise up a Native couple or peoples to pass this forward. I mean, this isn't ours. And we want to make sure that we give it away, and it's something that they want. They will want Jesus once they taste and see how good He is, just to pass it along. So we are just praying that we can really, that those people, even ahead of time, and we know the Lord is working, even now. He Lance baptized some people from Keiko this summer at family camp, and some of those kids are in Marshall and from Marshall. And so, I mean, we've got a few right off the bat that we know very well that we'll be able to go in and work with and encourage and come alongside and pay special attention to. And so we're just really praying that we stay well, we represent Jesus well, and that we find people that want what He has.
Awesome. Any logistical things, getting stuff out there? Do you have water and internet and electricity and everything? Everything's all working?
Yep. Food will take, the last time we were out there, my mother was alive, and her and my brother seemed to always send lots out there. And we do have a lot of siblings, but a lot of them aren't necessarily on board with missionary work and being out there and what are you doing and do you really need this and all of that. But this time around, more of my sisters, his family, all but one are Christians, and he's a Christian too, but he's just, he's kind of walked away from the Lord. So his 8 siblings are all behind us, and mine are now, we found quite a few of them partnering and wanting to. So, if anybody has an inkling to send a box, I'm asking for beans, rice, and canned chicken. I mean, we may be eating a lot of beans and rice because there are not a lot of fish this year. So, and I don't know how moose is going to go, but they do eat a lot of birds. So, yeah, we would never say no to anybody sending us a box of goodies. And we share. John and I both, we like to think that the Lord gives us stuff, kind of passes through. And what he doesn't give away, I do. And it kind of works both ways, so it's fun. It works.
I think you're probably right about that. Is there anything else that you would want to say to the Change Point family that I didn't set you up for?
No, but I'll tell you what, I have felt literally, for this being such a big building, when I saw the building Change Point, I just said, oh my gosh, John, is this a church or a university? I mean, what is going on? This place is huge.
People always say it looks like a hospital because of the white cross on the side.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hadn't thought of that. I just thought of a
church.
university. It's like, holy moly. But to come in and be welcomed like we were, I mean, I said to John this morning, he's hurrying around, I got to get to the VA and I got to do this. I said, do you realize that this is my first morning that I'm going to be going into this staff meeting? And it isn't like our staff meetings we had at MATA where we all sat around a table. There was like 8 of us, 10 of us. And, whatever. I said, this is bigger. Pray for me. So he did. But you feel the love in here. I mean, I have felt so loved and so appreciated, and for both of us. So I just want to say thank you. Yeah.
Well,
it's
you're
awesome.
very welcome. You are both an answer to our prayers, and we're very excited to see what the Lord is going to do through this partnership in the coming years.
Yeah, good.
Margret, thanks so much for joining me. And thank you, Change Point, for joining us. God bless you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday.